Today on OC News, former President Donald Trump wins the election, becoming the 47th president.
And we have updates regarding some of the U.S. Senate races from around the country.
Also, we have two CSUF faculty members joining the show for our election roundtable.
OC News starts now.
There's been a lot of collaborative efforts.
I feel blessed to be here in Fullerton.
Brought to you by the Broadcast Journalism students at Cal State Fullerton.
OC News starts right now.
Hello, and welcome to the OC News Election Special. I'm Anthony Mendolia.
And I'm Juliana White. It's been a historic election season. Thank you for joining us tonight. At 2 a.m. this morning, the Associated Press called the U.S. presidential race for former President Donald Trump. Former President Trump ran against Vice President Kamala Harris. Despite the last election taking 4 days to be called, Trump won a sweeping victory in just a number of hours. As of 11 a.m. this morning, Trump led the Electoral College 295 to 226 and also the popular vote. Harris also gave a speech just a few hours ago, conceding the race and offering congratulations to Trump.
With the Trump presidency, undocumented students may be facing deportation. Emily Wilson has the campus reaction.
With what will likely be a conservative Congress, passing mass deportation legislation is a possibility now more than ever. I talked to the campus community to get their thoughts.
So part of Trump's campaign promises included promises of wide-scale mass deportation. And if he's sincere and serious about that, that could pose a risk to students on DACA. I think what we don't know is what is the range, what is the connection between Trump's campaign rhetoric and his actual plans.
Listen, President Trump has made perfectly clear that this is a process, and you have to have a priority list. His priority list that you begin with are the criminals. And he said after he gets done with that, he'll look elsewhere.
I had the privilege of working with a nonprofit that helped refugees and asylum seekers that were released from detention facilities. And the things that they had to face in there were things that no one should face, regardless of them coming here to try to find a better life for them and their families and try to make life better for them and build a better future.
Students with questions can seek resources at the Titan Dreamers Resource Center. This is Emily Wilson with OC News. Back to you guys in the studio.
For the latest updates on expectations of Donald Trump's second term, we go to CNN reporter Ivan Rodriguez.
Nobody has seen a political comeback of this nature. Not only did President-elect Donald Trump win the necessary 270 Electoral College votes to return to the White House, but he also won the majority of the popular vote, also now confirming he won the state of Michigan.
Please welcome President-elect Donald J. Trump.
Projected President-elect Donald Trump is now the second person in U.S. history to win 2 non-consecutive terms as Commander-in-Chief.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
And I think presidents who are given a mandate to govern deserve from the Senate the opportunity to surround themselves with people that are going to help them execute their policies.
And the Republican Senate is exactly what Trump will have after the GOP secured enough seats to take control of that chamber overnight. He gave a peek into his prospective administration.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he came in. And he's going to help make America healthy again.
Kennedy is known for his extreme views on America's public health systems and anti-vaccine stance.
Healthcare regulators now are not doing healthcare, they're doing sick care.
A star is born, Elon.
Elon Musk poured around $119 million into Trump's campaign and is expected to play a role in Trump's White House. Republican and former Representative Liz Cheney, who campaigned with Vice President Kamala Harris, tweeted this morning that our nation's democratic system functioned last night, and we have a special responsibility to support and defend our Constitution.
Harris has now spoken with President-elect Trump and conceded the election. A person familiar with the call said it only lasted a couple of minutes. Later today, we're still expecting to hear from Harris as she will address her supporters from Howard University. In West Palm Beach, Florida, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
For California, the Senate race has come to a close, but the 45th and 46th districts of the House of Representatives remain close. The California Senate race was called around 8:30 p.m. by the Associated Press, with Adam Schafer of the Democratic Party winning 57% of the vote over Steve Garvey of the Republican Party. Sarah McBride of the Democratic Party made history last night when she won Delaware's lone seat for the U.S. House of Representatives, becoming the first openly trans member of Congress. McBride was heavily favored and won 58% of the vote over Republican John Whalen. California's 45th district is in a tight race that is yet to be called, with incumbent Michelle Steele of the Republican Party currently leading the vote over Derek Tran of the Democratic Party, 52.5% to 47.5%, with 66% of the vote recorded. California's 46th district was not as close, with it coming to a close last night at 4 a.m. with incumbent Lou Correa of the Democratic Party receiving 60.2% of the votes over David Penn of the Republican Party.
Fullerton also saw a big election night with voters voting on city council seats, Fullerton School District seats, and local measures. City Council District Seat 1, 2, and 4 were up for election. As of now, Fred Jung and Nick Dunlap are slated to win their re-election in Districts 1 and 2 respectively. Jamie Valencia is in the lead in District 4 with 35% of the vote. Fullerton School District Area 2 and 5 were also up for election. So far, Leonel Talavera is slated to keep his seat in Area 5, but he is only up by 2 votes against Vanessa Estrella. For Hilda Sugarman of Area 2, she lost her 8th term against newcomer James Cho. Measures L and N, which would approve over $500 million collectively in bonds to repair and renovate Fullerton schools, both passed as well, each receiving over 50% of votes.
Also on the ballot this election cycle were some important propositions for California students and residents as a whole, including Prop 2, Prop 32, and Prop 36. Proposition 2 is a measure that would authorize $10 billion worth of bonds to build and repair facilities at K-12 public schools and community colleges. It has passed with 56.9% of the vote currently. Proposition 32 would have raised California minimum wage to $18 an hour, but it did not pass with a 52% no vote. And for residents of California, a major change is coming to the justice system, as Prop 36, a measure that will increase penalties for repeated theft offenses and certain drug crimes, has passed with a resounding 70.4% yes vote. Let's head over to Omar Portillo for the latest on the congressional races. Take it away, Omar.
Thank you, Anthony. I've got some updates on the California State Senate race, as well as some local elections for the House of Representatives. Starting off with the California Senate race between Republican Steve Garvey and Democrat Adam Schiff. Garvey has no political background and is most known for being an all-star first baseman for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like many other conservative Republicans, Garvey's policies include strengthening border security, supporting law enforcement, and reducing government spending. Unlike Garvey, Schiff has a lengthy career in American politics. Schiff policies include a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants and opposing tax cuts for the wealthy. The Associated Press has called the race for Schiff, who clinched over 57% of the vote, compared to Garvey's 42.7%, meaning Adam Schiff will be the one to fill Senator Feinstein's seat. Moving over to some updates on the House of Representatives. In District 38, we have the race between Eric J. Ting and Linda T. Sanchez. The race has been very close, and Democrat Sanchez is currently leading just over 50% of the vote. Over in District 40, the race between Young Kim and Joe Kerr. Republican incumbent Kim is the projected winner, currently having just over 56% of the vote, with Kerr having just over 43% of the vote. Now to District 45, Republican candidate Michelle Steele is holding a slight lead with just over 53% of the vote. Democratic candidate Derek Tran is currently trailing at 46%. Over in District 46, Democratic candidate Lou Correa is holding a strong lead with just over 60% of the vote, compared to Republican candidate David Penn, who has just over 39%. In District 47, we've got another really tight race, but currently Republican candidate Scott Baugh is in the lead by 1% with just over 50.58% of the vote. Democratic candidate David Min is trailing close behind at just over 49.42%. And closing out our House of Representative updates, we have the race in District 49 between Republican Matt Gunderson and Democratic incumbent Mike Levin. In orange, Gunderson has a commanding lead at 56% as shown with the graphic. But combined with the San Diego vote, it is another close district race that has Levin in the lead with almost 51% of the vote, and Gunderson right behind at 49.33%. That is all for the congressional elections. Up-to-date election results are available at ocvote.gov. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Omar. Still to come on OC News, social media's role in elections.
As well as some celebrity reactions to the election. Stay tuned.
How prepared is your family if a wildfire shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or an earthquake? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
What does it take to discover the greatness within you? It takes resilience.
When I first got to Cal State Fullerton, I felt lost. Then I found my community. It was like a caring family cheering me on.
I wasn't sure about being a chemist. My professor showed me I could. People believed in me here, and I learned to believe in myself. Discover the resilience within you at Cal State Fullerton.
I'm a centrist, right? So I don't have too firm of an opinion on the presidency per se. The House of Representatives, though, being Republican, I am kind of worried.
Students around Cal State Fullerton expressed their opinion on Donald Trump being elected. We go to Jacob Fisk live on campus.
I had the opportunity to talk to students around campus to get their opinion on Donald Trump being elected president.
It just shows that our country isn't as progressive as people claim it is. And it's kind of like distasteful that a lot of people said they were voting for Kamala and they turn out in the polls and were voting for Trump. She joined the race like 3 months ago. She didn't really have time to campaign and market. But I'm just really surprised that people will go out and vote for him with his thoughts and ideas.
I can't say that it's totally unexpected or that, you know, Kamala was trying to go rightward, do you know what I mean? And because of that, she went like Republican light. And when it comes to that strategy, right, people are always going to choose the full option and not going like halfway. Besides that, she also was really vague and she didn't really distinguish herself from Biden. And with Biden, nobody really likes Biden, so when you fail to distinguish yourself from somebody you hate, people are going to hate you regardless.
I would be concerned either way, to be honest. I'm a little concerned for his character. I like what he's done in the past, but I'm not sure if like the character describes someone I'd want as a president. I think with how poorly Biden turned out over the last 4 years, I think it wasn't surprising that Trump won over Kamala, but I didn't think he would win by the margin that he did. I guess I haven't really listened to her enough to say, but you know, when I think about like my own mind, I still associate her with Joe Biden, right? I think naturally, and maybe that's the natural reaction for people who aren't really invested or very educated. I don't consider myself very educated, and I think that would reflect in that I kind of associate them two together still.
Before setting up, I was notified that there were students around campus wearing Make America Great Again hats and Donald Trump t-shirts. But by the time we finished setting up and looked for interviews, there were no more Trump supporters found on campus. Reporting for OC News, I'm Jacob Fisk. Back to you guys at the studio.
Thanks, Jacob. Jamie Valencia is leading in Fullerton's most contested city council, District 4, with 35.28% of the vote against Kitty Jaramillo, Linda Whitaker, and Scott Markowitz. Emily Wilson has more on the candidates and how they could impact Fullerton.
Voters across Fullerton have hit the polls to decide on 3 district races for next year's City Council. In Districts 1 and 2, incumbents Fred Jung and Nick Dunlap are up for re-election, while District 4 will see a new face on the dais as longtime councilmember Bruce Whitaker is termed out. There are 3 candidates eligible to serve in Fullerton's District 4, but 4 candidates on the ballot. Scott Markowitz, a senior data analyst, is ineligible to serve after pleading guilty to falsifying nomination paperwork after being arrested just 2 weeks ago. 2 felony counts were dismissed by the Orange County District Attorney's Office. Kitty Jaramillo, who is endorsed by many local Democratic leaders, is a former code enforcement officer. Linda Whitaker, the wife of Bruce, has worked on his campaign since 2009. And Jamie Valencia, a nurse, is new to city politics but has served on the Fullerton Infrastructure and Natural Resources Advisory Committee for 2 years. A massive issue facing Fullerton voters right now is the city's budget deficit, which is at $9.4 million this fiscal year. It's projected to reach over $20 million in the next 3 years. Here's what candidate Kitty Jaramillo had to say about the issue.
But what I think we need to do is boost up our economic development in our city because we have a lot of empty storefronts, and there's really nothing going in. And they've been like that for years, a lot of years. So we really need to do something like that.
Conversely, candidate Linda Whitaker would support budget cuts to solve the issue.
If you have a budget problem at home, what do? You cut your budget. There's a lot of things that, happen in businesses and in, cities, governments that they spend a little too freely sometimes. I think that has to be the first thing.
Valencia wrote to the Orange County Register that generating revenue is the most important thing. The winner of this election has a chance to get Fullerton out of this budget crisis. This is Emily Wilson with OC News, signing off.
This election season, candidates have been spending a record amount on advertising. Jonathan Bindi has more on the story.
Thanks, guys. We're in front of the TSU where students on Cal State Fullerton's campus are still reacting to last night's election results. And while some counties are still counting ballots, the question is, who's counting the bills for this campaign? 2024's election cycle shattered financial expectations as an estimated $16 billion was funded for all campaigns by super PACs and fundraising. The Harris campaign allocated just over $1 billion in fundraising money, while Trump's campaign raised over $380 million.
I think that Camilla could have spent a lot less on advertising. I think the way she was advertising, who she was advertising, was a bit skewed.
In contrast, 2020's presidential election total spending was just over $15 billion, with Biden's campaign raising over $1 billion in committee money and Trump's campaign over $750 million in committee money.
I think it's more of he got a better strategy than she does. She's more all about spending the money, trying to get people to say like, oh, let's legalize marijuana, let's do all that and this. But at the end of the day, it's all about strategy, how you win the people over, how you can better the country for the people.
All projections have pointed to 2024's election cycle breaking records for the most money spent in campaign history. And if this election is anything to go by, the future might cost a lot more. This is Jonathan Bindi with OC News. Back to you guys in the studio.
There is a collective relief this election is finally over. For the past 2 years, there has been a constant bombardment of political ads on television and social media. I have the story of how social media has taken over political campaigns.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in?
Campaign ads are an integral part of elections. They allow candidates to present who they are to voters, but the numbers of them can be overwhelming.
I don't like seeing all the ads, and I don't like the spam texts coming to me, so I think it's kind of annoying.
Over the years, campaigns have shifted from focusing on traditional campaign videos on TV and flyers in the mail to utilizing social media.
This week, a hot new bombshell enters the villa.
I do think that campaigns need to be hiring people who are very, very savvy about what happens to the social media after it's generated.
Social media connects candidates with younger voters. They see their personalities, such as watching a video of Vice President Kamala Harris doing her take on the "I hope they play hot to go" trend.
This is a Kamala Harris rally.
Or a video of former President Donald Trump dancing to a remix of the Macarena.
Kamala's never gonna beat me in November.
One aspect people like about social media is the ability to see inside others' lives. Candidates have utilized this to show their audience who they are outside of their official roles, like this video of Tim Walz, and this one of JD Vance while they were out on their campaign trail. They're not all silly videos though. Most candidates use social media to degrade each other.
A creature with orange leathery skin looms in the shadow.
My hope is that when somebody's seeing a TikTok video and it's compelling to them, that they don't just leave it at that. That they say, oh my God, that sounds crazy. Is that really true? And then they start to look at it.
No matter what your political views are or who you support, you should always check out additional sources, especially when getting information off of social media. I'm Juliana White with OC News.
Dayanara Palafox is here to inform us on the latest celebrity reactions of the election. Take it over, Dayanara.
Good evening. It's a new day in America with Donald Trump and JD Vance winning the 2024 presidential election. The people's social media was flooded with responses both during and after the election. The news has prompted passionate reactions from celebrities, revealing a range of emotions from support to disappointment. Elon Musk showed enthusiasm tweeting, "It's a morning in America again," accompanying his message with an image of the U.S. flag. Jake Paul also expressed support, declaring the results a victory for truth and urging Americans to unify in addressing national issues. Jeff Bezos celebrated Trump's winning by writing, Bezos said, quote, "Big congratulations to our 45th and now 47th president on an extraordinary political comeback and decisive victory. No nation has bigger opportunities. Wishing at real Donald Trump all success in leading and uniting the America we all love." End quote. Rapper 50 Cent uploaded a photo with President Trump congratulating him in quote, "I don't care how the fight goes. I'm leaving with the winner, bleep. I still don't know what's going on. Congratulations," end quote. Some of Hollywood's biggest names who threw their support for Kamala Harris in this election voiced their encouragement for Harris, celebrating her historic run and her commitment to her campaign, even in the face of a challenging race. Cardi B praised Kamala Harris' groundbreaking run, inspiring women nationwide, emphasizing its impact on women and girls. As an inspiring example, she encouraged her followers to remain hopeful and to continue advocating for change. Billie Eilish expressed concern, calling the outcome a war on women. And on her Instagram, Jamie Lee Curtis shared fears for minority and women's rights. She warned of potential restrictions on personal freedoms and pledged to support those whose rights might be impacted, urging others to fight against tyranny and protect vulnerable groups. LeBron James also shared on his Instagram picture with his daughter and captioned it saying, quote, "Heavy on my heart, mind this and my princess. Promise to protect you with everything I have and more. We do not need their help," end quote. And that's the latest on Hollywood's reacting to the election. This year's outcome has sparked a strong response across the entertainment world, with voices on both sides making themselves heard. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Dayanara. Coming up next, we have two special guests joining OC News today.
That's right. We have Dean of Communications, Dr. Jason Shepard, and Associate Professor of Political Science, Dr. Rob Robinson, stopping by.
They'll be joining our colleagues Lena Naranjo and Anthony Manifold for our election roundtable.
Thanks for watching the first half of our show. I'm Juliana White.
And I'm Anthony Mendolia. Stay tuned after the break.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills. Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR. It's all good if you think you should check in. Yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking. Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Whatever gets you talking. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
What does it take to discover the greatness within you? It takes resilience.
When I first got to Cal State Fullerton, I felt lost. Then I found my community. It was like a caring family cheering me on.
I wasn't sure about being a chemist. My professor showed me I could. People believed in me here, and I learned to believe in myself. Discover the resilience within you at Cal State Fullerton.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way. My kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
I was mostly stressed for the most part just because the whole entire day I was like refreshing the page to see which candidate was going to win, and then I was up late just like seeing the results, and then like afterwards just trying to soak that in. I felt like overwhelmed. I'm kind of like scared.
Today we are joined by two special guests from Cal State Fullerton, Dr. Jason Shepard and Associate Professor of Political Science, Dr. Robinson. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So our first question is, what are your takeaways from the results of the election? First thoughts.
Well, on the one hand, I'm a little surprised we knew the results so quickly. In the last couple of cycles, it has taken days to know. So one initial surprise that we knew pretty early and that the outcome was pretty decisive.
I'd say what surprised me the most, or what I found most interesting, was that there was a uniform shift across the country in favor of Trump. Red states, blue states, swing states, that seemed to be a very broad-based reaction to the Biden administration or inflation.
Right, I think I could definitely agree with you on that, because I think the swing states really, I was not expecting that. And Dr. Robinson, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So you are currently a panelist to discuss the 2024 election outcomes. And in this panel, you discussed the
the propensity voters, right? So this is individuals who are eligible to vote but don't partake in the voting. So you mentioned that women fall under this scale, and you did say the Harris campaign focused more on younger women, and on the other hand we have Trump, who was more focused on younger men. So why do you think they went for that specific demographic?
They're probably both trying to double down on what they perceive as their strengths. So the Harris campaign looked at the 2020 election outcomes and saw that abortion rights seemed to be pretty popular, and likely thought that focusing on abortion rights would be a good way to get some young women who might not otherwise vote out to vote. Men tend to favor the Republican Party in recent decades, and so the Trump campaign probably thought that trying to double down on young men, maybe through media like Joe Rogan and other podcasts, other influencing, trying to focus on that demographic to get them out. And it seems that did work for them. They were able to get that, especially I think among maybe young Latino men. That could be decisive in some states like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Dean Shepard, you could say mainstream media has become partisan. What is the danger for the freedom of press if the media appears to favor one side over the other?
You know, I think the press has a hard, has some difficulty in covering Trump because there's great pressure to fact check him, to call out the perceived kind of historic or significant nature of some of his comments, but on the same, at the same time, they don't want to be accused of being partisan. And you saw some of that in the debate and controversy over some of the major newspapers like the LA Times and the Washington Post's decision by the owners not to endorse in the presidency despite the years of coverage and also the critical editorials against President Trump. And so I think the mainstream media in particular is really struggling with how to cover Trump. Certainly the partisan media and the coverage on social media both plays to the bases of each party, and both President Trump and Vice President Harris have significant niche media that tried to drum out their base, and so I think we'll continue to see that under President Trump's second term, is the significance of the partisan media and the challenge for the mainstream media in covering him in effective ways.
Right. And as I was watching the news last night, they were actually mentioning that the United States of America is now the divided States of America. That's what they said, right? So we look at the numbers, and obviously Trump improved drastically in comparison to Kamala. Why do you guys think that she lost to these important swing states?
So I think she actually did better in some of the swing states relative to, say, blue states like California or New York or New Jersey. To me, this kind of big swing is best explained by dissatisfaction with inflation and high prices. I know inflation has been going down, but the memory of it is still pretty strong. It's the kind of thing that voters very easily understand and very strongly dislike. And I think what we're seeing is that the Biden administration, and by extension, the Harris campaign, which is maybe in a more structurally difficult place than a lot of people may have thought before last night. To me, that there are other issues, immigration potentially, but I think inflation is probably the one that if you had to pick one, that's probably what sunk the campaign and the unpopularity she had to fight over.
Right.
Well, you know, as Dr. Robinson alluded to, the tentative data sort of show that President Trump outperformed the 2020 numbers across the United States, in blue states and red states, and I think that's surprising to a lot of folks. Analysts are going to be studying this campaign to try to understand how could a twice impeached, convicted, criminally candidate be elected by a wider margin than he had in his first election. Historically, this is really significant, and I think scholars, academics, historians, journalists are going to be studying this race. But as Dr. Robinson said, there are a number of factors, sort of headwinds against Harris in terms of things like the economy and inflation and potentially immigration and a number of the issues that seem to be in Harris's favor just didn't seem to motivate enough voters to get out to vote for her.
Right.
Yeah, as we continue talking about factors such as demographics or the interest rates, we know social media is a big thing. So which campaign do you think was more effective in using that to their advantage?
Well, as a sort of addict of X or Twitter, I think it is probably hard to overstate the effect that Elon Musk's role had in influencing the social media sphere. Certainly, Harris did not have the same passion of users, at least on X. Certainly, other social media platforms are probably different. But it really was a social media election in a lot of ways, and I think that really ultimately helped Trump. Trump's bombast, Trump's energy, his ability to shock and surprise plays really, really well on social media. And so when he would make outlandish or extreme comments, those sort of feed the social media machine, the rage machine, especially on the far right, and social media is a home for a lot of that.
I'm going to add to that for a pretty long time, the right wing seems to have had an advantage going back to talk radio with getting out to talk to people through non-traditional or non-mainstream media formats. And I think they leveraged some of those strengths into social media. I'm sure the Harris campaign has plenty of people who are good at making memes or doing communications. But in terms of an overall media infrastructure, I think the right is better set up to take advantage of that than the left. And I think a lot of the left's infrastructure actually spent a lot of its time attacking the Harris campaign on Gaza and Israel rather than supporting it the way that the right-wing media often supported Trump. So that sometimes I think they actually hurt her rather than helped.
And I think we did definitely see a lot of that on the media. Now, we know the GOP will likely control the Senate, right? So if they take the House as well, does that mean the guardrails are completely gone for Trump?
No. We have a long and I think pretty proud democratic tradition that I think means we have a pretty engaged citizenry. I think that's the ultimate guardrail, frankly. The media is going to feel a lot of pressure, and I don't think they have covered themselves with glory throughout the election necessarily, but there's a lot of independence there. And while the Supreme Court in many ways is going to be in sync with the Trump administration, certainly not in every aspect of it, it's also just notoriously hard to get things done in Congress, period. Are Republicans willing to abandon the filibuster to get bills passed? I don't know. Will the Republicans have a functional majority in the House of Representatives? I don't know. So there's a lot we don't know yet, I think, about that. What I have told people today who asked me is that people should be vigilant, but I don't think it's necessarily a situation that the guardrails are gone.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Shepard and Dr. Robinson, for joining us today and just giving your insight on this election show. Thank you.
We appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, when we come back from the break, we talk to some voters who are taking part in the election for the first time.
And we will take a visit to an election de-stressor event for Cal State Fullerton Dreamers.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
STEM is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
I have a question about...
Now, those were great perspectives from both Dr. Shepard and Dr. Robinson. And I want to point out a key point that Dr. Robinson mentioned. He talked about the economy, right?
Yeah.
I was looking at some research, and based off Trump's deportation plan, they state that due to that plan that he has, that we're most likely to go into a second Great Depression. What are your thoughts on inflation, the economy, just overall?
Yeah, well, a big talking point for Trump's administration, because we've seen inflation in gas prices, food, just travel, everything. That was a big point for Trump's campaign, is that prices were going to go down and living was going to be more affordable. So seeing that we could be in the midst of another Great Depression could be a changing point. So thank you for bringing that up, Lena.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to look out for sure, and hopefully we could see some change in that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, for first-time voters, casting a ballot could be a daunting task. Alex Abeda giving tips on how first-time voters could be less stressed and be excited to cast their vote.
All across the country on November 5th, Americans will once again have the opportunity to make their voices heard and shape their government. However, this year, over 40 million members of Gen Z will be eligible to participate in the election. According to the Pew Research Center, in the 2020 election, eligible members of Gen Z only made up 8% of voters, but they also made up 15% of non-voters. There are some obstacles for young voters. It can be hard to navigate how and where to vote if you've never done so before, and some of the rules at polling places may seem daunting. But in some states, there is another option for first-time voters facing these obstacles. Like here in California,
they can drop off their ballots in official ballot drop boxes like this one.
First-time voter Reese Milliken shared with me how he handled some obstacles while voting.
Even if you don't know exactly what everything means, it's better to know more than know less. So look it up on your phone. If you don't understand something, that's what I did.
Another challenge for young voters can be feeling like their voices will be heard in such a large sea of more experienced voters. But another first-time voter, Tara-Lynn Contraseri-Ryan, offered some words of encouragement.
I think that every vote counts. It is a little bit scary, and it is a little bit like, does this really matter? But it does. And it's not only just for like the country, but just to get your voice out, and it helps us as a whole to be heard.
From local races to national decisions, all of yesterday's first-time voters have contributed to shaping our shared future. Reporting for OC News, I'm Alex Veda.
So I know this wasn't my first election voting, but Lena, how do you think it's important for first-time voters to get out there and get that experience?
Right. I mean, I think it's really important for them to really, like they say, your vote is your voice, and I just really think that that's what it is, right? I feel like the vote really makes an impact on just America as a whole. So I just think it's very crucial for young voters, especially young voters, the younger generation, to really have a say in what they want in changes.
100%.
Yeah. CSUF is making sure that students stay stressless during election season. Ariana Hartman has the story.
Cal State Fullerton hosted an election de-stressor event Tuesday afternoon, right in the middle of Election Day. The Diversity Initiative and Resource Center paired up with Titan Dreamers, a resource center that supports undocumented students on campus.
It's a way to create a safe space for undocumented individuals, but also individuals who aren't undocumented, but are also feeling that stress of like, what's going to happen, who's going to win. As undocumented individuals, we get stressed because our life is on the line. Every election, we don't know if we can be deported, we don't know what's going to happen to us.
For many students, it's their first time voting, which can cause a lot of stress and anxiety, not only on election day, but the days following after.
Election stress is nothing new either. In a study by the American Psychological Association, 69% of adults experience stress from the U.S. election.
I mean, as fun as it is just to be like, hey, we're here and we're stressed, it's like, well, what are we going to do about the stress, you know? Because we're getting these feelings for a reason.
Titan Dreamers understands that elections can have a big impact on the community they serve and will have effects on their day-to-day lives.
I know it's going to be stressful if something bad or something good happens, but we'll be here to listen to them. We're still going to help the undocumented community find resources. We'll never let them down.
While food, games, and socialization may seem too common, the Titan Dreamers knows these small steps lead their community to a less stressful election day. Reporting in Fullerton, I'm Ariana Hartman for OC News.
Well, that is all for us today. Thank you for tuning in to the OC News Election Special. Our regular coverage will resume next week.
Make sure to follow us on social media at OC News CSUF and at Titan TV CSUF. We will see you next Wednesday.